Hey, let me tell you about the time I got blown up. What's going on, everybody? This is Jeremy from Tech Specs Gaming. Obviously, you know who I am if you've seen any of our videos, but if you haven't, I encourage you to go check them out. Bill Doesn't Know has been a pretty fun series to make so far, and I really enjoy keeping the secret from him. Today, I'm going to talk about one of our running jokes, the IED. Jeremy's IED is acting up again. It is true. I was in the Army, served 2 years over in Iraq, and I did get blown up a couple of times. A lot of people have questions, but nobody really wants to ask those questions because, you know, talking to a veteran about wartime experiences has kind of become a taboo thing. And you see it a lot, especially from maybe the Vietnam era where you just didn't ask questions, or World War II era where you just didn't ask those questions. Well, you know, we live in a different time, and I don't have a problem answering those questions anymore. So I'm just going to talk about that today, and I hope you enjoy it. So what's it like to get hit by an IED? Well, I'll dispel a few things. First of all, Hollywood has it all wrong. There's no big giant flame that, you know, flies up into the sky, and it's just Hollywood special effects, man. It doesn't look like that at all. In fact, most of the time, the thing that you're going to see is just a giant black puff of smoke, and then you'll hear kind of a delayed reaction from the bomb, especially if you're further away. Now, if you're like me, where you're right in the middle of it, you actually don't hear the bomb at all. You just kind of hear a pop, and then your ears start to ring. So Hollywood definitely has it wrong. But you got to remember, they're in the business of selling movies, and they're not really interested in truth. The explosion that goes along with an IED, it's definitely loud. It's a different kind of loud. If you're at a distance, you can see the puff of smoke fly up long before you hear any kind of explosion. The explosion definitely takes a lot longer to reach you because you're talking about, you know, light versus sound, and they travel at different speeds, so you can hear these things from a great distance away, and it's not terribly unlike thunder and lightning. A lot of times you'll see the lightning long before you see the thunder. A bomb is kind of the same way. But when you're in the middle of it, what you do hear, you're going to hear kind of a slight pop, just a little something along those lines, and then a ringing in your ears picks up. That ringing, unfortunately for me, it never actually went away, and it's called tinnitus, and it's annoying as I can't say it's annoying as I can't say it's annoying. Now, personally, I've been hit with 3 IEDs. The first one was in my first tour in 2003. It really wasn't that big of a deal. It was just a small Pepsi can that was on the ground. I was driving in a 5-ton. Back then, I was lower enlisted, and so they gave me the crappy job, so I had to drive a 5-ton throughout Iraq. Yay. That 5-ton, we drove right past what looked like a little Pepsi can, and that Pepsi can exploded. We got a flat tire. It was a minor inconvenience for the day. The second IED was the one that rang my bell. This one got me. Sometime around January or February of 2006, I was given the lead vehicle, and we were supposed to go out and relieve another team that was on an OP. For those of you who aren't in the military, OP stands for Observation Post. Taking the lead vehicle in a Humvee was a huge mistake now that I look back on it. And, of course, there was multiple reasons that I'm sure that I thought it was a good idea, or maybe I was just too brave for my own good. I'm not really sure. But taking the lead in a convoy in a Humvee in Iraq in 2005 and 2006 and 2007, that time frame was not a smart move. Unfortunately for me, at the time, we didn't have the standard operating procedure in place to where larger track vehicles, you know, what some civilians may call tanks, were supposed to take the lead in convoys. And I just jumped in the front and started heading towards the OP, to go relieve the other team. And it was about a mile outside of the gate that I got hit with my second IED. The explosion itself destroyed the vehicle. We couldn't see anything because of all the sand and the smoke that, had been thrown up into the air. It killed all of the electronics to the vehicle in the Humvee, so that completely disabled the radios in the vehicle. So I couldn't relay back to the vehicles behind me what was going on, and I couldn't relay back to headquarters what was going on. I was kind of felt like a sitting duck there for a minute, not really knowing exactly what had just happened. Smoke and sand being inhaled wasn't the best time in my life. Despite all the smoke and the sand and the possibility of the vehicle, catching fire and all that, one of the biggest concerns that came to my mind was, I got to make sure that everybody else in the truck is okay. And one of the standard operating procedures that you do is when everything is kind of calmed down a little bit, you have to check your buddies to make sure that there's no tears or holes or bullet holes or any kind of damage that they may have not noticed. And I know that sounds kind of surprising that somebody would not know that they've been injured, but it actually does happen. It's very common when the adrenaline rush has taken place and you're under fire, or you've been hit by some kind of an explosion, or something has been thrown off, that you may be wounded and not even know it. And you can bleed out in a matter of minutes. So it's absolutely vital that you check your buddy and make sure that they're not bleeding and not aware of it, because it does happen. Nobody was injured in that blast, so obviously we're all very happy about that. But there was some damage that had taken place that I was not aware of. And years later, I was diagnosed with what's known as TBI, traumatic brain injury. Some of the side effects of TBI, they include memory loss, confusion, vertigo, nausea, vomiting, memory loss, problems with speech, sleep disorders, memory loss, headaches, symptoms of post-traumatic stress, cognitive symptoms such as mood swings, depression, concentration issues, and of course, memory loss. You see what I did there? The good side of it is that the VA has a program that I went through. It's called cognitive processing therapy. In cognitive processing therapy, I learned a ton about how the brain works and what happens to someone who's experienced trauma and how the mind reacts. The brain has the power to change, to adapt. It's extremely malleable, and going through the whole process was actually quite enjoyable for me to learn about all these things and how they worked. So it was definitely a wild ride. The beauty of the military is that you get to meet some of the strongest people in the world, and you get to grow with them, and you get to train with them. And I'm not just talking about the United States, because there's some badasses out there all across the globe. So the third IED that I got hit by was a little bit different. That third IED, that one was the one that it kind of knocked something loose in my head. This is when I realized something was wrong, but I didn't know what. I only spoke to a few people about it, that something wasn't quite right. I couldn't put my finger on it. And to be honest with you, back then we didn't know a whole lot about traumatic brain injury. So when I got hit with that third IED, that was when I knew that something was really wrong. And I only told a few people about it. I kept it pretty hush-hush because we were on mission. We had things going on. We didn't have time for all the other crap that went on behind the scenes. We were crazy busy, always getting tasked out for something. The third IED, this one took place in the back of a Bradley, which, again, if you're not familiar with what a Bradley is, think of it like what a civilian might refer to as a tank. It's an armored personnel carrier, and it's a mean machine. But they're not designed to take some of the blasts that we were taking. And in this particular instance, I was in the back of one of these Bradleys. I couldn't tell you if there was anybody back there with me. My memory, I'm sure somebody was, but my memory is just not there. So I was in the back of this Bradley The Bradley had gone over the IED, and the blast was not timed appropriately for us to actually get hurt, and the blast went off. I remember seeing a very, very brief flash, and I remember hearing it. And again, the ears ringing, the pop and the ringing, and then that was kind of all I remember. Something had shifted in my mind, but like I said, I only told a handful of people, and they even referred me to go and speak to the chaplain because they thought that I was just having some kind of a breakdown or something. That was a waste of time. Years later, I finally broke down and I went to the VA. It's probably a good thing that I did because I didn't know how bad it was. I had just attributed most of my issues to post-traumatic stress, not realizing that TBI and post-traumatic stress often go hand in hand. And I also have to give credit to the VA in my area because I know a lot of veterans, they experience some very negative things from the VA. And for me, fortunately, that wasn't the case. In the region that I live, people love the veterans. They love us, and they treat us very well. And my VA, my regional office, and my outpatient clinic, they have been no exception. They've been awesome. I tried to adapt on my own in the post-Army life. I worked several jobs, and I finally found myself delivering mail for the United States Postal Service. Like that wasn't going to exacerbate the situation any worse at all, right? In hindsight, then maybe that wasn't probably the best decision of a career field. Eventually, I broke down and I went to get the help that I needed. And it was at that point that I was forced to medically retire from the post office. Now I spend my time as a stay-at-home dad. Memory loss is, it's not all that funny when you forget to cook dinner. The family doesn't really appreciate that too much. I'm also a part-time YouTuber, and I'm a part-time podcaster. Go check out Red Tired Podcast. I'll probably put a thing somewhere around here, something like that. Red Tired Podcast, and YouTubing has given me kind of to do. We all have to have a drive. We all have to have a purpose, and for me, that has really actually helped a lot in kind of the satisfaction side of things. Everybody feels like they have to have a purpose, and without a purpose, it's almost like, what's the point? So for me, having the YouTube side of things and being able to play the video games with my buddy and keep the secret from him, it's made life really exciting and really enjoyable. Jacob is in on the joke, by the way. Bill is not. Bill has no idea. The moral of the story is, really, I just wanted to get this off of my chest. Although, destigmatize the post-traumatic stress and the traumatic brain injury and all of that stuff. Like, this is just part of it, man. You go to war, sometimes there's going to be bad things that happen. That's just the way it is. But if there was a moral of the story, I guess I don't know. I would say maybe if you go and get blown up in Iraq, well, then you can retire at an early age. My kid's looking at me, staring at me through the glass window, judging me. Thank you to anyone who took the time to watch this. And also a special shout out to all my brothers and sisters in the military who are making my way of life possible, sacrificing now so that I can live my life the way that I do. And also a huge shout out to the veteran community, the guys who've gone before, the guys who've done the thing. You guys kick ass. Season 4 is coming out soon. Stay tuned. Thank you.